The moment I held my first grandchild, everything I thought I knew about parenting completely changed. Here are some things that nobody prepared me for. So grandparenting is a blessing, no doubt about that. But it's not just parenting all over again. It's a whole new role. And along the way, I've learned some lessons that surprised me. So the first one is the control paradox, letting go of direct influence. As a dad, I used to be the one in charge, and my wife, of course, but bedtimes, curfews, making sure the homework is done, saying things like, turn that music down, or you've watched enough, those were all my jobs. But as grandparents, you quickly realize those days are gone. Your kids are the parents now. And that's the paradox. You love those little guys and girls with all your heart, but you don't get to call the shots anymore. And honestly, that's really a good thing. It's about influence now. And influence often comes through love and consistency and just being there for them. And yes, sometimes that includes bending the rules a little bit. Little ice cream before dinner, that's an Opa special. And tip number 2, wisdom versus advice, from telling to sharing. When I was younger, advice usually sounded like rules. Do this, don't do that, stop doing that, leave the dog alone, things like that. But with grandkids, wisdom sticks better when it's wrapped in a story or an example. I shared this in my video, They're Always Watching. My grandson learning about kindness, not because I told him or gave him a speech about it, but because he's quietly just watched me paying for the car behind us in McDonald's. Never made a big deal about it with him, but it's just something he picked up on. And I talk about that in this video here about how kids learn so much when you think they're not paying attention. And in that case, they learned about kindness, not through a long sit-down speech, but just by watching everyday actions. And that reminded me that kids and grandkids pick up so much more from what we do than from what we say. Wisdom shared through actions lasts far longer than a lecture. So tip number 3 is legacy building. It's beyond raising kids. As parents, most of our energy goes into the daily grind. Getting them to bed at night, getting them back up the next morning, getting them on the bus for school on time, getting them to soccer practice on time, making sure the homework is done. But as a grandparent, your view shifts. You start asking, what are they going to remember? What will my legacy be? What will they remember about me? What do I want them to remember about me? I talk about this in another video I did about what kids remember. I'll leave a link to it up here. But what kids remember, it's not the clean shirts, it's not the time they got to school on time or to soccer practice on time. It's the unexpected things. The wading in the creek, running into the convenience store in bare feet, silly things like that. That's what they remember. That's where your legacy comes from. And legacy isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Those are the things the kids will remember and carry forward long after you're gone. So tip number 4, relationship dynamics with your now adult kids that are the parents. And this is the part nobody really warns you about. Your relationship with your kids change as they become parents. They're not the little ones now, they're parents. And that can be difficult. And sometimes they'll do things differently than you did with them as kids. And that can be a little bit tough. It can be a little adjustment on your part to get used to that. But my role now is not to step in and correct and to impose my way of doing things or try to impose it. It's to encourage, to be a support, to respect that it is their turn to be a mom and a dad. And you know what? That's That's a real joy in watching your kids become parents. My wife and I talk so many times about watching how each of our three sons, they've each got two grandkids, or two kids now. And it is so satisfying to see what good fathers they have become. It makes me feel like I may have screwed up a lot of things in my life, but at least I got that part right. And in a way, it's like the next act of a play. I step off to the side out of the spotlight, but I'm still in the story, just in a different capacity now. And that's okay. The fifth tip, again, is on relationship dynamics, but this time about the daughter-in-laws, in my case, since I had sons. These amazing women are the mothers of our grandkids. And that means the whole experience as a grandparent flows through them. And I've learned three things to make all the difference. The first one is you got to support instead of critique. Even if it's different than how we did it as parents, they're the mom, they're kind of in charge now. You got to accept that. And the second one is to ask, don't assume. It's much better to stop by and say, hey, anything I can do to help? You want me to get the kids off your hands for a little bit? It's much better than just showing up with a plan set in stone and expecting them to drop everything to go along with it. And the third tip is to express gratitude, genuine gratitude, just a simple, thank you for what you're doing with my grandkids. You are being such a good mom. I'm so happy with the way these kids are turning out. Everything else runs smoother. They don't feel threatened by a grandpa that just kind of shows up, and they learn to appreciate the help. And the family as a whole grows stronger because you're not introducing stress where there doesn't need to be any. There's enough stress in a marriage with raising kids without grandpa sticking his nose into it also. So, if you're a grandparent now or planning to be soon and thinking about how it's going to go, your influence hasn't ended. It's just changing. You're going from control to trust. You're going from advice to wisdom. You're going from raising kids to leaving a legacy, leaving a memory. And you're going from being the parent to being the encourager, being the cheerleader, being the one bucking the kids up and encouraging them along the way. Kids and the grandkids. So anyways, this is Opa. Hope you enjoyed this little bit. But now go out and make some memories with your grandkids. Encourage your kids about the good job they're doing with raising your grandkids. And if you've got any little stories you'd like to share about your transition from becoming a father or a mother to a grandparent, we'd love to hear them in the comments. So thanks for listening and have a great day.